pressure on our public services would be enormous.
I just don't agree that all immigration does us good.
No, not all immigration, and there are certainly economic migrants that are not benefiting this country, but actually for the most part, the majority of immigrants I come across seem to be hard-working people that have got good skill sets, that are actually contributing to the society. There are some, I must admit, who are also taking liberties.
As there is in every...
We've got a lot of English people taking liberties.
We've got a lot of English people that won't do basic jobs.
But this is what we've got to sort out. But we don't have English people going abroad and not working, do we?
Yes, we do.
Do we?
Yes, we do. Have you been to Spain?
Well, they're retired, aren't they? Most of them.
They're retired. They're not all retired. There's just lots of people living in Spain.
Well, yeah, of course there are.
British people have populated the south coast of Spain. Really,
Costa del Crime. Yeah.
If I was a Spanish person, I'd say I've been swamped and overwhelmed, and my culture's been overtaken by these immigrants from England. Just the same thing.
I'm not convinced.
They're sitting there saying those English people with their roast beef.
I just think we've got to sort out the problem of, we've all said this before, we've got too many immigrants that don't do anything, I think.
I don't agree with that. The statistics do not back that up. If you actually look at the number of immigrants who are on benefits, it's a very small proportion.
I'm not necessarily saying on benefits, there's a lot on crime as well, isn't there? There are.
Ridiculous.
Most of the immigrants, let's do this on a factual basis, most of the immigrants here are actually in jobs and contributing to society, and are actually doing the jobs that actually make sure that we as a country have the money to pay for our pensions and our public services, etc., through the taxes they pay.
Really,
and a lot of people who come to this country come for a short period of time, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and go back to their own country. And therefore, I think that this story is actually one of... it's an easy prejudice. I remember reading a headline on the Daily Mail which says the Eastern European immigrants coming to this country, there's going to be riots on the street, there's going to be blood on the streets, and it's a disgrace and they should be sent back. That was in 2009. 1909.
I think there's a lot of builders that would disagree with you that have seen their lifestyle actually reduced as a result of being undercut by Eastern European workers. My point. And that has happened. The building industry has basically stagnated from a salary perspective as a result of people being prepared to do 12-hour days for half of what a British worker was getting paid. And it's just going to...
What are you laughing at?
It's having an adverse effect on the British workforce. And if you go to towns like Boston and Lincolnshire...
So, indeed, well, you're arguing against yourself now.
I'm making...
He's a Liberal Democrat.
I like to sit on a fence.
Yeah, most Liberal Democrats do, because it's that's the way they go, isn't it?
But I spent a bit of time up in Boston and Lincolnshire recently, and the town is completely and utterly swamped.
So why aren't you complaining about the gangmasters who actually control that situation?
I do complain about
and
the gangmasters.
If you actually look at, when we have this debate, we always talk about the victims who are at fault, i.e. the immigrants coming in, they're the ones who are at fault. We never talk about the people who bring them there. We never talk about the employers who employ them at that level because they want that. That's the issue.
Do you mean those employers that actually couldn't get their crops in because they couldn't find any labour, so they had to import the labour?
No, a lot of gangmasters are East Europeans.
If they're doing it properly, I have no problem with it. But you're making the point that there's too many immigrants there, I'm saying to you that they're there because the gangmasters and the companies want them to be there.
Actually, that's not the point I'm making. What the point I'm trying to make is that actually immigration, I don't believe, is a bad thing for this country. I think we need immigration. What I think happens, though, is sometimes you get such a concentration in a particular area that the local population are outnumbered by the immigrants. Then I think that there is something needs to be addressed at that level.
Okay, it's also how they integrate. I mean, this is nothing. I mean, the Italians, there were plenty of Italians in Bletchley and Bedford, weren't they, who came to work in the brickfields, but they join the community, but a lot of these people aren't, are they?
Well, that's not true again.
Well, I don't know.
If you actually look at the Milton Keynes, and you look at the diversity of nationalities in Milton Keynes, they're spread right throughout the city.
Well, in Milton Keynes, yes, I agree, but not elsewhere. I mean, you look at Luton. I mean, do the Pakistani families... I mean, the women don't get any say in the matter. They don't get any integration within our society. They're kept in home. Most of them don't speak any English. It's a secular society, isn't it?
I think that is a real issue about gender equality within the ethnic minority community, and I think that is a real issue. But that isn't an issue against immigration. That is an issue of gender equality.
Yeah, I think we're wandering around here.
It's all tied up, isn't it? It's all tied together.
No, we're wandering around here, because Alan's talking about Boston and all that sort of thing, and the people. But, if the English worker was prepared to get off their butt and go up there, there would be no need to employ these immigrants who come in to do it for peanuts. And
they're only following the Tibet mantra.
Yeah,
get on your bike and...
no, I mean... all right, there is another argument about going down the road of saying, these gangmasters, they're getting people in there and they're probably charging the companies, £10 an hour or whatever it is, and they're giving the people £1 an hour, and they're keeping them in virtually slave conditions. Well, that's a totally different kettle of fish, and I mean that's something that the authorities should be looking at.
But employment law should deal with that.
Yes, that's right.
And there was a Gangmasters Act brought in about 2007-8.
Yeah, well, that was after the
Morecambe
disasters,
tragedy.
There was a society for gangmasters.
There still is, yeah.
Legal, I don't know if it still is.
Yeah, they're trying to administer themselves. But
to recap, that is an employment issue, not an immigration issue.
No, that's right. That's what
the point I'm trying to make is that when immigration gets to a level where the indigenous population is outnumbered, then I think that it's probably going to have an adverse effect.
Just go back though and ask the question: is why is the indigenous population put in that position? Because in many instances, the indigenous population are too bone idle to actually get out there and do the job.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
So they're asking for it themselves.
In those areas.
Yeah.
Because they're very affluent.
The
problem is we've become a very affluent country. The indigenous population of the United Kingdom, for the most part, are relatively affluent. Most people have got their widescreen TV. Most people have got a car. Most people have got a washing machine and a dishwasher.
Particularly those that don't work.
All the children are educated. Nobody's starving. Everybody's well fed.
I don't know about not being educated.
And a very large...
We've got a large number of food banks, so again, that's not necessarily true anymore.
No. Education, there's a lot of uneducated people in this country, far too many, isn't there?
Yeah, but there's no excuse for anybody to be uneducated. That's as a result of bad parenting.
Absolutely right.
We are a very wealthy country, and we've got a generation of people that were brought up that don't want to do the menial tasks. And we're having to bring people in to do them. I'm up to recruitment. I can't recruit people at certain levels.
When I left school, there were 3,000 barristers in this country. This year, there's over 12,500.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Barristers?
Yeah.
That says something, doesn't it?
It does, says a lot.
A litigious society, if ever there was one.
It's the no win, no fee, isn't it, but let's just wind the clock back 40, 50, 60 years now when the dockers in London, it was a handed-down job, father to son. And what happened, the shipping industry collapsed. They moved it to Amsterdam and Rotterdam and that sort of thing. Yeah, but they weren't prepared to move with it. The same with Coventry. Coventry was well known for making BMC cars, employed a hell of a lot of people. Now look at it, because the British worker wanted more money for less hours. And the only company that's actually blossoming in this country making cars is Nissan, up in Tyneside, and that's because of their culture.
Sorry, Mike, it's not the only company that's doing well. There are a variety.
Honda, I forgot Honda.
We produce a huge number of cars in this country. We're a major car manufacturing country. Jaguars, Land Rovers,
and they're all made in China.
But the quality of our cars, British Lane cars, was pretty dull, wasn't it?
That was true in the 70s, but if you actually look at the quality of British cars at the moment...
Vauxhall just issued a recall this morning, by the way, on Corsa.
Yes.
Adam, is it? An Adam?
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. Yeah, it's just 2014 plate.
For anything, what was it, May and June?
Brian, though, listen, I'm not going to argue what you're saying because what you're saying is absolutely correct. But the reason that you're saying it is because the fact that it isn't Joe Bloggs who gets off his backside and goes to do an 8-hour shift in a car factory. It's a little robot who does it. Because there was the old saying years ago, I remember when I bought cars, I had my first car, never buy a Friday car because, the chances are it'll fall to pieces, Now it doesn't make any difference because at the end of the day, they're all made by robots. Yeah. They're painted by robots.
The standard of car building in this country is extremely high.
Yeah, because it's robots.
Right, I watched a TV programme, Top Gear, not so long ago, where they
it's a TV programme?
where they showed the Mall in London with all the vehicles that are manufactured in this country, and it was superb. I was amazed at the diversity.
Did you see
the manufacturing?
The Formula One cars driving through Milton Keynes on that programme?
Yeah,
that was superb. The fact that this city can actually close off a couple of roads, let Formula One cars drive down there, and not even notice it in terms of our traffic management was superb.
Yeah.
And now, again,
so I'm fed up with people slagging off our car manufacturing and our manufacturing industry in general. Yes, in the 70s and 80s we did have a few problems with unions and Red Ken and the like, but actually we what they've done is they've morphed into a very efficient manufacturing sector that produces high-quality products that are exported all over the world.
Should I talk about the miners then as well, or not?
Well, the miners were destroyed weren't they, by Thatcher?
No, they destroyed themselves. They was destroyed by Arthur Scargill. Arthur Scargill destroyed the miners.
But the way it was dealt with was terrible. With the police and everything up in Nottingham.
I tell you what, there were more policemen that upgraded their houses and everything like that from the miners.
They were nothing more than thugs, hired thugs, weren't they?
What, the police? Or the miners?
And talking of travesties, what about Mr. Travis? Is that a travesty of the law again?
That's a terrible link.
It is a terrible link.
I apologise for that.
Sort of Radio 2 link, but I think that the bloke's been put through hell, and actually, they've tried to nail him down to.
Yeah, how much money does it cost?
The most minor little. I mean, yeah, all right, he was a naughty boy, and he's got his just desserts for it, but. At the end of the day, what was it, 20 cases or something that were put against him, and they were all whittled down to one, and at the end of that, he gets a 3-month suspended sentence.
I think the sentence says everything about what the judge thought of the case.
I think for once, I don't know who the judge was, but I think for once he should be he or she, maybe she should be commended, because they've seen some light, but. It's a business of the Crown Prosecution Service, isn't it? Because why on earth did they not sort of put a block to this?
When they started talking about serious assaults, serious sexual assaults, you think, to me that conjures up something very different from what was actually described as the thing that he's guilty of. I mean, he touched somebody inappropriately for between 10 and 15 seconds.
Now, that's wrong.
That's wrong. Clearly that's wrong. I've got no doubt whatsoever that's wrong. But then you've got
Was he a sexual predator, as they're saying? No.
Well, I don't know is the answer to that. What I do know is I don't think it was dealt with in an appropriate manner, and it should have been dealt with at the time.
But what worries me about the way that all these high-profile cases are, one of the things it was supposed to do was to make sure that people who are victims have the ability to come forward and are listened to. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're in severe danger of scoring an own goal here, where these high-profile cases are actually going to make it people less willing to come forward and report crimes.
So do I, because
they don't want to go through the kind of... I don't know the case. I've only seen what's in the paper. But the victims in these cases have been put through just as much hell as... Mr. Travis. And I think
I'm not so sure about that.
To go to court and actually have to relive those experiences again, and then be...
I'm surprised they can remember.
20 years later.
Again, Anthony Leonard, by the way, the judge. Anthony Leonard.
Good, well done.
It is not an easy thing for people to actually do that. And if we are saying, well, and you're going to be ridiculed and you're going to be talked down because of coming forward, people aren't going to come forward. And I think there's a real danger that people will not report problems and crimes.
I would agree.
That's why we're trying to break it.
I would agree entirely with what you're saying, but this is what happens. Something like that happens today, then that should go to the police today or tomorrow at the latest. Not 20 years down the road, because